Hi Archie, this is number 3, Horrible Henry's Holiday. I hope you like this one. Chapter 1. Horrid Henry hated holidays. Henry's idea of a super holiday was sitting on the sofa, eating crisps and watching TV. Unfortunately, his parents had other plans. Once they took him to see some castles, but there were no castles. There were only piles of stones and broken walls. "Never again," said Henry. "You like your castles, don't you, Archie?" The next year, he had to go to a lot of museums. "Never again," said Mum and Dad. Last year, they went to the seaside. "The sun is too hot," Henry whined. "And the water's too cold," Henry whinged. "And the food is yucky," Henry grumbled. "The bed is lumpy," Henry moaned. This year, they decided to try something completely different. "We're going camping in France," said Henry's parents. "Hurrah!" said Henry. "You're happy then?" said Mum. Henry had never been happy about any holiday plans before. "Oh yes," said Henry. Finally, they were going to do something good. Chapter 2. Henry knew all about camping from Moody Margaret. Margaret had been camping with her family. They had stayed in a big tent with comfy beds, a fridge, a cooker, a loo, a shower. "Oh boy," said Horrid Henry. "A heated swimming pool, a disco, and a great big giant TV with 57 channels." "Bonjour," said Perfect Peter. The great day arrived at last. Horrid Henry, Perfect Peter, Mum and Dad boarded the ferry for France. Henry and Peter had never been on a boat before. Your daddy would say it's not a boat, it's a ship. Henry jumped on and off the seats. Peter did a lovely drawing. The boat went up and down and up and down. Henry ran back and forth between the aisles. Peter pasted stickers in his notebook. The boat went up and down and up and down. Henry sat in a revolving chair and spun round. Peter played with his puppets. The boat went up and down and up and down. Then Henry ate a big, greasy lunch of sausages and chips in the cafe. And the boat went up and down and up and down and up and down. Henry began to feel queasy. Peter began to feel queasy. Henry's face went green. Peter's face went green. "I think I'm going to be sick," said Henry, and threw up all over Mum. I think I'm going to be..." And Peter threw up all over Dad. "Oh dear." "Oh no," said Mum. "Never mind," said Dad. "I just know this will be our best holiday ever." Chapter 3. Finally, the boat arrived in France. After driving and driving and driving, they reached the campsite. It was even better than Henry's dreams. The tents were as big as houses. Henry heard the happy sound of TVs blaring, music playing, and children splashing and shrieking. The sun shone. The sky was blue. "Wow! This looks great," said Henry. But the car drove on. "Stop!" said Henry. "You've gone too far." "Oh, we're not staying in that awful place," said Dad. And they drove on. "Here's our campsite," said Dad. "Our real campsite." Henry stared at the bare rocky ground under the cloudy grey sky. There were 3 small tents flapping in the wind. There was a single tap. There was a few trees. There was nothing else. "Oh, it's wonderful, Mum," said Mum. "It's wonderful," said Peter. "But where's the TV?" said Henry. "No TV here, thank goodness. We've got books." "But where are the beds?" said Henry. "No beds here, thank goodness," said Dad. "We've got sleeping bags." "But where's the pool?" said Henry. "No pool. We can swim in the river." Where's the toilet?" said Peter. Dad pointed at a distant cubicle. 3 people stood waiting. "All the way over there," said Peter. "I'm not complaining," he added quickly. Chapter 4. Mum and Dad unpacked the car. Henry stewed and scowled. "Who wants to help me put up the tent?" asked Mum. "I do," said Dad. "I do," said Peter. Henry was horrified. "We have to put up our own tent." "Of course," said Mum. "I don't like it here," said Henry. "I want to go to the camping in the other place." "That's not camping," said Dad. "Those tents have beds in them, and loos, and showers, and fridges, and cookers, and TVs. "Horrible," shouted Dad. "Horrible," said Peter. "And we have such a lovely snug tent here," said Mum. "Nothing modern, just wooden pegs and poles." "Well, I want to stay there," said Henry. "We're staying here," said Dad. "No!" screamed Henry. "Yes!" screamed Dad. "I'm sorry to say that, Henry." Then that he had the longest, noisiest, loudest, shrillest, most horrible tantrum you could ever imagine. Did you think that a horrid boy like Henry would like nothing better than sleeping on a hard, rocky ground in a soggy sleeping bag without a pillow? You thought wrong. Henry liked comfy beds. Henry liked crisp sheets. Henry liked hot baths. Henry liked microwave dinners, TV and noise. He did not like cold showers, fresh air and quiet. Chapter 5. Far off in the distance, the sweet sound of loud music drifted towards them. "Aren't you glad we're not staying in that awful noisy place?" said Dad. "Oh yes," said Mum. "Oh yes," said Perfect Peter. Henry pretended he was a bulldozer that had come to knock down tents and squash campers. "Henry, don't barge the tent," yelled Dad. Henry pretended he was a hungry Tyrannosaurus Rex. "Ow!" shrieked Peter. "Henry, don't be horrid." Mum looked up at the dark, cloudy sky. "It's going to rain," said Mum. "Don't worry," said Dad. "It never rains when I'm camping." "The boys and I will go and collect some firewood," said Mum. "I'm not moving," said Horrid Henry. While Dad made a campfire, Henry played his stereo as loud as he could, stomping in time to the terrible music of the killer boy rats. "Henry, turn down that noise this minute," said Dad. Henry pretended not to hear. "Henry!" yelled Dad. "Turn that down!" Henry turned the volume down a tiniest fraction. The terrible sounds of the killer boy rats continued to boom over the quiet campsite. Campers emerged from their tents and shook their fists. Dad switched off Henry's CD player. "Anything wrong, Dad?" asked Henry in his sweetest voice. "No," said Dad. Mum and Peter returned, carrying armfuls of firewood. It started to drizzle. "This is fun," said Mum, slapping a mosquito. "Isn't it?" said Dad. He was heating up some tins of baked beans. The drizzle turned into a downpour. The wind blew. The campfire hissed and went out. "Never mind," said Dad brightly. "We'll eat our baked beans cold." Chapter 6. Mum was snoring. Dad was snoring. Peter was snoring. Henry tossed and turned. But whichever way he turned in his damp sleeping bag, he seemed to be lying on sharp, pointy stones. Above him, mosquitoes whined. "I'll never get off to sleep," he thought, kicking Peter. "How am I going to bear this for 14 days? Oh. Around 4 o'clock on day 5, the family huddled inside the cold, damp, smelly tent, listening to the howling wind and the pouring rain. "Time for a walk," said Dad. "Great idea," said Mum. "Achoo!" Sneezing. "I'll get the boots." "Great idea," said Peter. "Achoo!" Sneezing. I'll get the marks." "But it's pouring outside," said Henry. "So," said Dad. "What better time to go for a walk?" "I'm not coming," said Horrid Henry. "I am," said Perfect Peter. I don't mind the rain." Dad poked his head outside the tent. "The rain has stopped," he said. "I'll remake the fire." "I'm not coming," said Henry. "We need more firewood, Dad. Henry can stay here and collect some, and make sure it's dry." Henry poked his head outside the tent. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still cloudy, and the fire spat. "I won't go," thought Henry. The forest will be muddy and wet. He looked down to see if there was any wood closer to home. That was when he saw the thick, dry, wooden pegs holding up all the tents. Henry looked to his left. Henry looked to his right. No one was around. If I take just a few pegs from each tent, he thought, they'll never be missed. When Mum and Dad came back, they were delighted. What a lovely roaring fire, said Mum. Clever you to find some dry wood, said Dad. The wind blew. Henry dreamed he was floating in a cold river. Floating, floating, floating. He woke up and shook his head. He was floating. The tent was filled with cold, muddy water. Then the tent collapsed on top of them. Henry, Peter, Mum and Dad stood outside in the rain and stared at the river of water gushing through their collapsed tent. All round them, soaking wet campers were staring at their collapsed tents. "Achoo!" Peter sneezed. "Achoo!" sneezed Mum. "Achoo!" sneezed Dad. Henry coughed, choked, spluttered and "Achoo!" sneezed. "I don't understand it," said Dad. "This tent never collapses." "What are we going to do?" said Mum. "I know," said Henry. "I've got a very good idea." 2 hours later, Mum, Dad, Henry and Peter were sitting on a sofa bed in a tent, big as a house, eating crisps and watching TV. The sun was shining, the sky was blue. "Now this is what I call a holiday," said Henry. That's the end of Horrible Henry's Holiday. Hope you liked that one, Archie darling. Love you.